everyone. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Took us a little while to get up and going. We're here. We're here. Collin Crain is here with me
What's up?
today. Yeah, high
Good
school
to be here.
pastor. Whoop whoop. No.
Yep.
It's funny. We were sitting here and I go, I hadn't had you ever come on to talk about like high school,
stuff.
like ever.
It's all good. All good.
So he's coming in clutch today to just talk a little bit more about high school. We talked about junior high with Emma in pre-service this last Sunday, which had me thinking about you and just student ministries and all of that. And so I kind of want to start even further back than that, though, because like people may not know like you. I mean, I've known you a long time, but I thought it might be kind of helpful
Sure.
for people to just kind of get to know who you are.
Yeah.
So what's your story? How did you end up as our high school pastor at North Point? Like, how
Yeah.
did that happen?
Probably figure out where to start. I grew up at North Point, so I've been coming to North Point for a long time. Since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I don't remember what grade, but it was when I was younger.
Yeah.
My dad was pastor here, children's pastor. So grew up as a pastor's kid here, and that was great. I just got involved through high school in kids ministry and doing things that, started doing stuff like that. Started doing teaching and stuff, which was like really, really, really out of my comfort zone.
Who asked you to do that?
Donna did.
Donna did?
And it was like, did not want to do that. Really uncomfortable being in front of people, really uncomfortable just talking in front on a stage. And probably at the first, people could see that. But Donna, for some reason, asked me to do it. And so I just like continued to serve and do stuff. And I sort of felt like God was calling me to ministry, but I didn't really want to do that. I still didn't want to be in front of people as much as like Donna was pushing me to teach and to just lead games and to do stuff like that. I still was terrified. So I just kind of like went through the motions. I thought like, okay, well maybe I'll just be a teacher. So like went to FU to be a teacher and honestly kind of ran away from the idea of ministry because I just was afraid. And there just came a point where there was like a moment, but it was also just like kind of over time of like where I just finally was like, all right, God, I guess I just continued to feel this like push and push and push. And there was just certain things over time that built up to that. And finally I just kind of went, okay, God, like, I guess we'll see where we go, see how it goes. I still didn't feel gifted, still didn't feel like I was good at it, still didn't feel like I could do it. But I guess that was kind of the cool part of like how God works. I still feel that way, but that's just how God works.
I'm just curious. I want to dig in just a little bit here. You
Yeah.
said you just were not interested. You were fearful of like some things, and just you weren't interested in what made you not interested. I'm just curious. Like, what are the things that come to mind?
I think the biggest thing was just that I was just a super quiet, shy, insecure. Still am in a lot of ways, but person, like student, kid, college student, high school student, and that just made me really afraid to like think about all the things that like my dad was doing, teaching from stage, helping kids and families like know Jesus and walk with them through difficult things. And so it just like it scared me. I didn't feel like qualified or able to do that, and I think I just missed that like I don't have to, like I just got to trust God. And so I think I just sort of made it all about me because I thought like, like I'm not good at this or I can't do this. And I wasn't, but God was just saying, I know you're not, just trust me. And so, so that was kind of, I guess that's what kind of kept me, just a fear and insecurity.
Yeah.
So.
I laugh because you've kind of already answered this, but like, what were you like as a teenager? I mean, I know what you were like as a teenager because I knew you as a teenager, but you kind of nailed it on the head a moment ago.
Quiet, reserved, didn't talk a lot. I mean, still was like involved in things and still like, like I said, served and did kids ministry stuff and went to camps and had lots of, friends. Like, I mean, I think it was still, I just was the guy who just like stood in the back and didn't like stand out or want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't like being the center of attention,
Mm.
and I was that way then,
Mhm.
probably to the extreme then,
Yeah.
even more. But
Do you feel like there was people in those years? I mean, you named off one. I'm hearing Donna's name several times
Mhm.
now that like poured into you or that made a difference outside of your parents. And I say that because something happens, right, as we go through like elementary school and begin to go through junior high and high school and stuff. Like our parents' voice is one we hear all the time, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't quite have the same impact. Sorry, I mean, I know that as a
Yeah,
parent
yeah, yeah.
myself. I know that that's just the reality of it. But
Mhm.
can you remember the people that kind of poured into you and what kind of encouragements they gave you?
For sure. Yeah, there's a lot, thankfully. I mean, I was lucky. I know that not everyone has that, and
Mhm.
I think I was lucky enough to, fortunate enough to have that. I mean, I think, Donna was one later in high school of someone who just continued to challenge me in, teaching and those kind of
Mhm.
things. Travis in
Yeah.
junior high, Kevin,
Mhm.
Ronnie. I mean, those people just continued to speak. I had small group leaders. Cameron Freeze was my small group leader,
Nice.
and let me think. There's so many. It's hard to like.
So some of the
Rick
people,
Payne
yeah,
was
some of the,
another
oh,
one.
that's great. So some of the people you just named off are some of our pastors. You
Hmm.
named off like Travis, who's currently our children's pastor. He
Right.
was our junior high pastor probably at the
Yeah,
time,
at
right?
that time.
Heard you say Kevin. He's
Hmm.
now one of our adult pastors. He was our high school pastor at the time.
Yep.
Ronnie, who's our executive pastor. But then you named off Cameron Freeze, who
Hmm.
was one of our production directors here. He's
Yeah.
now working in Colorado.
Yep.
And then Rick Payne, who is a
Hmm.
longtime North Pointer.
Yeah.
Great guy. And so I want to focus in here for just a moment because I know something about Rick. He would take a group of you guys
Yep.
and pick. Now, you guys would get dropped off, or he'd pick you guys up on a Sunday morning.
Most of the time he would pick us up.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd drive around. When we had a church van,
Yeah.
he would come pick up the church van and
Uh-huh.
then come get all of us. And we lived in different areas
Oh
around
yeah.
Fresno, so
There's a
we.
good 6 of you guys maybe?
Yeah, more than that.
More.
There was a
Okay.
good amount.
Okay.
I mean, probably picking us up, there was probably 6 to 8 of us, and
Yeah.
then a couple would meet us here or whatever. But
Yeah.
but yeah, there was.
And what was that about? He just picked you up?
So
and-
we'd come. Usually, it started out as we'd come and then help with kids like setting up things.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of like evolved over the years. But yeah, it was like he'd come pick us up, and then we'd come here really early in the morning.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
probably 6:30, 6:45. So he'd pick us up super early, which junior high school student getting out of bed is. I remember there were times we had to like go in. Caden's house, Swobe, and
To
like actually wake him
wake
up.
him up.
But yeah, so we would come here and we just help set up. So kids, we'd do like chairs and all those kinds of things. But then it evolved into like we did all the setup for the worship center.
I know. I
We
remember
do the
seeing that.
chairs and then we do the Bible pen. We used to do Bible pen space. I
Yep.
remember we did 2 spaces at one point. We did one. It was just
Yep.
kind of.
Mhm.
So we did that, and then we'd sit in like rehearsal and worship. One of my favorite moments were just watching Rick, worship Jesus
Yeah.
while they were
I was
rehearsing.
gonna say empty room.
Empty
uh-huh.
room, just
Yep.
like us, like 10, 12 of us, like
Yep.
sitting there, and they're like rehearsing. So it's
Yep.
not like they're stopping in between and they're doing, and so it's a little awkward. But like
Yeah.
Rick is like on his knees, on his
Yeah.
face before
Yeah.
Jesus, and like so that was one of my favorite times watching him worship. Yeah, and then we just sit,
Yeah.
and then he'd, after rehearsal, if there were time, he would like spend some time opening God's word and
Yeah.
doing some. He always had like some crazy, funny analogies, and which are awesome. But yeah, I mean,
I love that
Super
story.
cool.
And I feel like I'm a part of that in a weird way because I would be here early
Mhm.
with everybody else,
Mhm.
part of the production team, getting
Yeah.
things up and running and printing stuff and circling up and all of that. And we would see you guys. We would see you guys doing the, Bible pen
Yeah,
space. And we would see you guys, that you came back from setting up a room or
Yeah.
helping out somewhere. And you guys would surely sit in those first couple rows and just
Yep.
listen to us kind of make our way through the
Mhm.
worship set and practicing and stuff. And it's the little things, right? I mean, like, even as I'm hearing you say these things, I'm remembering that and just thinking all he did was just say, come alongside me.
Totally.
It wasn't like he had this plethora. I mean, he had a lot of knowledge, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like necessarily what he was saying. It was more what he was doing that was
Mhm.
really important,
Mhm.
right? The
Mhm.
act of saying, you guys are important. I'm going to go and pick you guys up. I want you
Yeah.
to be a part of this and see what it's like to be in the background,
Yeah.
right, serving the church, and the church has no idea you're even doing this
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah, I think that's pretty amazing. Are you still friends with the people that you did church or small group with?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Josh is one of my best friends, Trent, Caden, Aaron. Aaron's my brother-in-law now, married his
Yeah,
sister,
that's
which is cool.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, all of them. We're still friends. Try to connect as much as possible. Life's busy, and we're all doing different things.
Yeah.
And some of them moved and are out of town or out of state or different areas. But yeah, definitely
Yeah.
try to stay.
Can you think of like measurable times that you saw the benefit of like growing up in a church community and family where maybe you were friends with people in school that didn't have that, and you could, I mean, because I kind of feel like when you're so surrounded by it and all of your friends come from this place, you
Yeah.
don't really get an idea of just how much of an impact it's making on your life. You kind of just think
Totally.
this is how everybody's life
Right.
looks,
Totally.
right? Because
Yeah,
you only
yeah.
know your own family and the way that things are done there. But
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things, that came to mind. We talked about this earlier. Was we had a when we were going. I think it was going into 7th grade. My dad would gather a bunch of just guy leaders that were in our life, and that were consistent. Just people who we did life with. People
Yeah.
who call them whatever, mentors, small group
Yeah.
leaders, all those things. So all the people that I just listed, Kevin, Travis, Rick, Cameron, I mean, Kyle
Yeah.
Williams, I think all those people were a part of that. And they'd come and they did, my grandpa, they came and they did a night where it was just like them sharing, hey, like, we're here for you. Hey, we're excited to see where God has taken you. Hey, we're in your corner, that kind of thing. They all like wrote like a handwritten or typed out like a letter of just encouragement, challenge as you go into junior high, as you grow up, as you do this, as you grow into your teenage years or whatever. And I think I still have those today.
Wow.
Yeah, just really cool moment to know that like I had these people who were in my corner, people who were for me, people who were with me,
Yeah.
people who just invited me to do life with them,
Right.
and knew that like I wasn't perfect and I wasn't gonna do life perfectly, but
Right.
knew that
Right.
to know that they were like there was it was something super cool, and definitely like you said, like something that I didn't realize, everyone didn't have something like this.
Right.
But man, it's like when you do, like how different life can be is so true. I remember in high school starting to realize some of that, being in, water polo and just sports and those kinds of things, being closer to people who didn't have that stuff, and
Yeah.
seeing the things that like were just okay for them or not a big deal, or just were like, okay, whatever,
Right.
like didn't have that kind of support, or people who were walking through some difficult things and they
Yeah.
just didn't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
People who like would bring things up to me, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking, I don't know how to talk to you, and anyway, so just like seeing
Yeah.
starting to see the benefit of that in
Yeah.
high school, and not take that, though there were ways that I probably did,
Yeah. Well, I think
but
we were talking about this too. Like so many people, I mean, like the statement I think that we were saying was like, somebody's going to influence your
Totally.
teenager,
Yeah.
right? Somebody is.
Absolutely.
And you can actually have a little bit more of a say-so in that. That's kind of what I see your dad doing in that moment, right? It's just helping you to see that you have people in your corner. You have
For
people
sure.
beyond me
Mm-hmm.
that are full of wisdom, that love you, that can help guide you.
Right.
Because I think as a parent, you recognize that like my kid may not want to come to me about everything. They might be worried about the way I might respond.
Yeah.
But if I can show them that there's people around them that they can also go to that are trusted, and I trust them and you can trust them, then that these are the people to go to.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's so true. Like I think like teenagers are gonna connect with someone, some kind of adult, someone, a teacher, a coach, someone, and or some kind of social media influencer these days. Something.
That's no joke. Yeah,
And,
that's really serious. Yeah.
and that could be good or bad depending on where that person is leading them. And I think that as a if we're talking to parents, I think you can have an opportunity to speak, to influence your kids in where they're going.
Yeah.
And then as an adult, if you're
Yeah.
listening to this as an adult, you can have an opportunity to like lead students or kids in a
Yeah.
direction that's good towards Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just by inviting them to be part of
Yeah.
your life. Or to
And I
open
even
it
want
up
to go as
them.
far as to say, like, there are so many people, I think, that maybe they came to know Christ much later in their life, maybe even as an adult, maybe even after they raised their kids.
Yeah.
And you may feel like you don't have anything to offer because you already raised your kids, and maybe there's some guilt in that or whatever. I don't know, but I would say, like, God can still use you, and
Totally.
even if you feel like you don't have enough information. If we hear Rick's story, we know that he just literally was just bringing you alongside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Him
And
to
you mentioned someone who came to know Jesus later in life. That was Rick.
That was Rick.
Came to know
Yeah.
Jesus later in
Mhm.
life. And then he just was like, man, I love Jesus. And I think that these kids need to love Jesus too.
Right.
And so this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And he would always talk about like grabbing your, it was a different number every time, but like grabbing your 7 or grabbing your 8 or your 10 or your 12 or whatever, right? And he would
Yes.
talk about the cycle of like an adult or a leader or someone or 2 leaders together. They'd grab their group of 7 or 8 people, and that group, they build into them, do life with them, and they invite them to just do life together. It doesn't have to
Right.
be always the serious Bible talk.
Right,
Like
yeah,
Rick
that's a
would
good point.
literally pick us up to like, hey, I got to go grab pickles at the store. You want to come hang out? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not even making that up. And we would go, and then we would go back to, just hang out. And so he would talk about this group that you're just building into, and then those 7 or 8, they get to go, and as they grow, they build into 7
Right.
or 8, and then
Right.
and that's like multiplying, and that's what the church
That's
looks
really
like,
what it is,
like
yeah.
it's just that community and that
Yeah.
cycle of continuing to discipleship
Yeah.
and growing, and
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely,
So-
because that's what really we're talking about. Is ultimately, as we North Point, we see leaders and stuff pouring into NP kids, junior
Yep.
high, high school, college, and we hope that as they make their way through that process, there's this desire to then, as an
Yeah.
adult, come back and
Totally.
then be in. Hey, where do you feel the Lord leading you?
Yeah.
To help out and. Being prayerful about that, I think that's
Mhm.
also really good. Gosh, you might be like, oh no, like kids is definitely my thing. But if the Lord is telling you
For
it's
sure.
actually a high schooler,
Yeah.
as much
Yeah.
as you may not feel like that's,
Yeah.
you might be like, are you sure? Did I hear you
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I would just challenge you to, hey, just try it.
Yeah,
Try it and
absolutely.
see what
yeah.
happens.
I mean, I felt that way towards high school. At first, I was like, these guys are kind of annoying, and they're like, think of a lot of themselves, but actually, they just need Jesus. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
So what are you hoping that students in your realm, junior high and high school,
Yeah.
college, what are you hoping that they will get, understand? I mean, I hear you and I think to myself, are you, I kind of feel like you might be somebody who looks at that person that's quiet,
Mhm.
that one that's a little bit more in the far background because that was you,
Yeah.
and you actually feel a little more drawn to that
Totally.
to that student.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, that's for sure. I as much as I can, like, because these, it's hard, honestly, with students to take the moments to go and talk to that one or to that reserved person or to whatever. So like the goal is to always have enough leaders that I don't have to be the only one doing that,
Yeah.
but that our leaders are attentive to, okay, that person is sitting alone, and one of our house rules is no one sits alone. So like, let's
Yeah.
live out what that means.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just mean sitting, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so absolutely, that's like, when I see that, like, I'm immediately like, I will leave a group of students that I'm comfortable with to go and talk to
Yeah.
that person, because I know what it's like to feel like that.
Yeah.
Where you're a little bit afraid and uncomfortable and insecure to step into friendships, but it's absolutely what you need.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of students are there, especially these days, of, it's just hard to step into like the courage or the confidence to step into the friendships, but they know they need it, but they just can't have that step, and they need that leader, that someone that can kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah.
And I love doing that for students. I love getting to the opportunity to do fun things with students, because that's where they like
open
open
up.
up. And that's
Yeah.
where they're, it's like you see some students who are just sitting back and you're like, come on, like, let's go.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to push them like,
Yeah.
no, like, get on a team right
Let's
now.
do
Like,
it.
you
Let's
can
do
do
this.
it.
Yeah.
And when they do, it's amazing how much they're like into it. They're like competitive. They're, trash talk, and it's all the things. And it's like, dude, you were just sitting in a corner by yourself,
Right.
and now you got like 3 more friends.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so that's like
Yeah.
definitely, I love to see that in students. Love
Yeah.
to watch that happen naturally. And I love to like not be the one that has to do that all the time. I love to let our leaders do that. I mean, I love to do it.
Right.
But
when you have more people that are a part of it, more
totally.
eyes on the room,
Yeah,
more
I'm only
people,
one
feelers
person.
out there, to just notice that.
Absolutely.
It's so helpful. You guys meet right now Sunday evenings, I believe, and Wednesday evenings. What's the difference between those 2 meetings?
So, well, right now we're just meeting Wednesdays in the summer.
Okay.
And so Sunday mornings we don't meet for high school, and that's purposeful. It's not just because we don't want to meet, or that we don't have time, or that whatever.
Right.
It's purposeful because we just want high school students to be part of the church, the life of the church. And so what we say is serve one, sit one, and we encourage them to get involved in a place of serving, whether that's kids or greeting or worship or production, or I mean, there's so many areas.
Yeah.
And so serve one and then sit one, and sit in service and learn alongside of adults and worship alongside of adults. I think that our students have a lot to offer in a adult worship service that we're missing out on because we feel like they have to have a separate service. But high school students, I think, have a lot to offer in worship, and adults can learn a lot from students just as much as students can learn from adults. And so I think it's just a cool opportunity for that to happen. I also think it's really cool when families get to worship together. Especially in high school, to see like a high school student to watch their mom or dad raise their hands in worship and to be engaged in a message and to sit in the same message and then go home and talk about this confused me and this was weird and this was really good and this I think is really valuable.
Wow.
And plus when they graduate high school, like
I was
they're
gonna say,
thrown into the life of the church, and this is sort of just a way in high school where they get to do that, where we're around. We can support them. We can help them. We can help them find ways to get involved. But yeah, it's like instead of just being thrown in college, like let's learn what it looks like to be life of the church. Even if they move away for college, a lot of students are left feeling like, well, I got to find what a church that looks like my youth group or that looks like, and you'll never find that, because that's just not what church is. Church is, life and community and doing life together, and adults are not like high school students, and adults don't go and play stupid games, and adults don't, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so anyway, it's just part of that, like helping high school students transition into adulthood, helping high school students mature and grow. Still having fun and still goofing off. But
well, I can't help but think Rick definitely has an influence in that kind of thinking, just simply because, like you said, you saw him worship, and it was just an experience to see that. I think specifically for young men to see grown men. Yeah. And I just be specific to men because just when it comes to like expressing emotion, we see that it seems to be a lot more difficult with men than it is for women, and so that makes a big impact.
For sure. Yeah. Just seeing that example. So,
for sure.
I think you asked about Wednesdays too.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Rant about Sundays, but that's Sunday mornings. I just say that because like there's just sometimes it's like confusing for people, and why we don't do Sunday services, and I just want people to understand it's purposeful. It's because we want students to be involved in the life of the church as a whole, involved at North Point.
Right.
And so anyway, so that's Sundays. Wednesdays are our service times, though. That's our time where we get to do high school service.
Right.
And I still think that that's valuable. I still think that that's good.
Right.
I think that both are necessary, which is why we desire both.
Yeah.
And so Wednesday nights are awesome. They're so much fun. Games, worship, message. We play games afterward. Over the summer, we've been doing squad wars. So it's like each grade is competing against each other and, having fun, doing different types of games and whatever.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. Tonight we're doing a slip and slide, tug of war stuff.
Yes.
And so, anyway, so lots of just fun stuff, lots of good stuff diving into God's Word.
Yeah.
We're talking this month about, big questions about, why this and why that. We're ending the month with a pool party at one of our leaders' house at first service.
Nice.
And so, anyways, so yeah.
That's awesome.
Lots
That's
of good stuff
awesome. I love
Wednesdays.
it. We've talked kind of here and there all about this, but leaders.
Yeah.
Leaders.
Yeah. I mean, always, man, we could always use leaders who are ready, who are committed, who are we'll say it. I think it's on our website. I pulled it up because I was like, I want to make sure it's like, man, a caring, consistent, and committed adult. When a caring, consistent, committed adult gets involved in the life of a student, life change happens.
Yeah.
When we have an adult who is committed to being involved in it, who's caring about that student, who's not just there to like fill a spot, but to genuinely care for a high school student, a junior high student, a kid, and who's committed to doing that, then life change will happen. We may not see it in this moment. We may not see it. I guarantee there were moments where Rick was like, "These guys are idiots," and because I was, and all of us, I can lay down a list.
Yeah.
And we just did. I mean, we did dumb things, but it's like we may not see it in the moment, but it's like planting that seed for life change in the future. And I guarantee, none of us would be where we are today if it weren't for what the Rick's caring, compassion, his consistent and committed, building into us. And so so we need more of that. I mean, that we would love to have more of that.
Well, so when you say committed, I mean, are you talking? So I mean, I understand committed to the students that are under your care, but what I also think is like, for me, I'm looking at, I'm going, okay, so you're balancing out your life, trying to figure out exactly like, what does this look like to add this, in my life, like. Is it just Wednesday nights? Is it for like an hour when you're doing small group? Are you, I mean, and I get like, clearly when you're saying committed, you're saying like, hey,
committed
text
to
them,
a student.
call them. Like, hey, if you see that they are going through something tough, like see if they want to go and catch some coffee with you or some Dutch with you or something. Somebody might also say something like, I'm too old. I don't know how to talk to teenagers. I don't get them, what would you say to some of those things?
Yep. Lots of things. That last thing is a lie. You're not too old. We've got some leaders that would prove that too. But yeah, Wednesday nights is what you're committing to. We in the last couple years after COVID, we had done small groups on Sunday nights and then service on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
And that was great. We loved it. I just think that it was tough for leaders and people to do fully committed to both nights, and it was just a strain on leaders and students. And so in this fall, when we kick off small groups, we're gonna have small groups and services on Wednesdays. It'll be a little bit longer of a night, from 6 to 8:30 instead of 7 to 8:30. But yeah, so Wednesday nights are what we're asking for leaders to be committed to, as far as a night of the week or whatever. And that's for high school. For junior high, I'll just speak to junior high because Emma's not here. But junior high's Tuesday nights is that small group night, and then they have service on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, at the 11.
At the 11 o'clock. Yeah. So, but yeah, so Wednesday nights is what we're asking. We've got some other like cool like leadership, discipleship stuff in the works of for a Sunday night or a Sunday afternoon type of thing.
Right.
But
not on the regular.
But that's more students can sign up for or be part of the student leadership team and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as adults who are, you're talking about committed.
Yeah.
And asking for Wednesday night is that commitment.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can just check out the website for any of it, guys. northpoint.org. You can just look for the Student Ministries is on there. You can actually do like /JHM for junior high ministry or /HSM for high school ministry, to kind of see what steps you need to take to like say you're interested in being involved in that in some way. And then I would just encourage you to like not overthink it. I think we can talk ourselves in and out of pretty much anything we want.
Yep.
But I think the difference is you heard the I want part of that, right? It's not really like about necessarily what we want.
Yeah, and if you're on the fence, come talk to me, because I'd love to talk.
That.
Talk about what that looks like and why, and how that would look for you. So.
Yeah. I know when I think I did small group. I did small group leader and I did the 4 years. I did the same girls from freshman year through through high school, and it was really fun to see that. And
Yeah, it's so cool.
still friends with many, if not all of them.
Yep.
Kind of seeing them, you know, move all over the place and
Totally.
begin their careers and
Yeah.
get married and all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
But
it's super cool to watch.
it is pretty neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate
course.
it tremendously. Just
Yeah.
giving us a little bit of a glimpse of what Student Ministries looks like here.
Yeah.
And just want to encourage you guys to check them out on social. I'll drop some stuff in there as well if you're interested in DMing them or anything like that. So
Yep.
thanks, Colin. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
of course. Thank you.
Yeah. Go and make it a great day. We'll see you this weekend. Bye.